Genghis Khan and the Mongol Empire, from steppe orphan to world conqueror. Imagine a boy born into exile, betrayed by his tribe, orphaned, barely surviving against rival clans under the endless sky. That boy rose to command the largest contiguous land empire in history. By the time of his death, his armies stretched from the Pacific coast to the edge of Europe, changing world order forever. This is the story of Temüjin, known to history as Genghis Khan, founder of the Mongol Empire. Today we'll journey from the harsh steppe where loyalty was tested, to the bloody conquest that reshaped nations, to the unexpected legacies he left behind. Not just brutality, but law, trade, culture, and a new world built on horse, bow, and ambition. Temüjin's humble beginnings, circa 1162. On the vast windswept steppes of Mongolia, Temüjin was born into the Borjigin clan. His father, Yesugei, led a small alliance of tribes, but when Temüjin was still a boy, enemies poisoned Yesugei, leaving the family without protection. Their kin abandoned them, forcing Temüjin, his mother Hoylan, and his siblings to scrape by on fish, wild roots, and anything they could hunt. Winter storms and raiders constantly threatened their lives. Those brutal years forged a resilience beyond his age. Temüjin learned that kinship alone could not guarantee loyalty, that strength meant little without allies, and that authority came only through earned respect. As a teenager, captured and enslaved by a rival group, he observed every guard's habits, seized an opening, and escaped, an early glimpse of the patience and nerve that would later bind warriors to his cause. Rising power, alliances, and early battles. Temüjin's ascent demanded more than courage. It required diplomacy and long-term vision. He forged ties with tribal leaders, including Togrul, Wang Khan, and strengthened them through marriage and sworn brotherhood. With Jamuka, his boyhood companion, he shared victories against the Tatars and Merkits, showcasing a mix of generosity toward allies and ferocity toward opponents. Yet ambition strained those friendships. Temüjin reorganized his followers into decimal units based on merit, not ancestry. A bold shift that attracted skilled riders from every tribe. After years of campaigns, in 1206 a great Kurultai proclaimed him Genghis Khan, or universal ruler. Alongside this title came sweeping reforms, severe penalties for theft or betrayal, support for artisans and blacksmiths, protections for surrendered captives, and growing roles for women in governance. Under his leadership, Mongol society evolved from loose clans into a disciplined, purpose-driven confederation. The engines of conquest, tactics, horses, strategy. The strength of Genghis Khan's empire lay as much in planning as in raw force. His warriors rotated between several hardy steppe ponies, granting unmatched range. Units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 trained to move as one, striking before enemies could regroup. Scouts mapped terrain while messengers relayed intelligence through relay stations across the steppe. Psychological warfare magnified their edge. False retreats lured opponents into ambushes. Promises of mercy convinced walled towns to surrender. Brutal reprisals deterred defiance. Genghis also captured foreign engineers to master siege engines, using them against stone fortresses from Central Asia to northern China. When facing the Khwarezmian Empire, he didn't simply storm strongholds, he severed trade routes, destroyed supply chains, and encircled cities until resistance crumbled. His blend of speed, precision, and information turned nomadic cavalry into the era's most formidable military machine. Empires built and broken. Major campaigns Genghis Khan's conquests spanned Central Asia, Persia, Asia Minor, and China's northern borderlands. Key campaigns against the Jin dynasty in northern China. Backdrop of fighting fortified cities, great numbers of casualties, adaptation of siege warfare. Khwarezmian Empire, when Shah of Khwarezm wronged his trade envoys, Genghis responded with devastating reprisals. Cities burned, civilians displaced, expansion into Central Asia, the destruction of resisting tribes, establishment of control over Silk Road trade routes, internal governance. In lands he conquered, he often imposed religious tolerance, fair taxation, demanded tribute, but allowed local leaders if terms were met. Yet there were costs, widespread destruction, population loss, and the scattering of societies. Sometimes cities were spared, sometimes they were obliterated depending on resistance. But Genghis saw these as necessary to secure long-term rule. His successors would continue expansion, pushing into Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, and China. Law, culture, and governance in the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan's rule was far more than endless campaigning. He crafted a legal framework, the Yasa, whose precise text remains debated, but whose spirit emphasized loyalty, justice, and the sanctity of treaties. It outlawed theft, punished corruption, and protected merchants, emissaries, and even ship crews along new trade routes. Religious minorities enjoyed unusual freedom. Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and shamans could worship without fear if they respected imperial law. A sophisticated courier network, the Yam, linked garrisons and markets, enabling messages and goods to cross thousands of miles in days rather than weeks. Under Mongol protection, caravans poured along the Silk Road, and with them came innovations: paper currency, medicinal herbs, astronomical charts, and gunpowder formulas. His government prized talent over ancestry. Promotions depended on skill, courage, and loyalty rather than noble birth. Women retained influence too. Hoyland's guidance shaped his sense of unity, while Berthe often advised on diplomacy and household policy. This balance of rigor and pragmatism allowed Genghis to weld disparate cultures into a single, if still fragile, imperial order. Decline and death and fragmentation. By 1226, after decades of relentless war, Genghis Khan was aging but determined to complete his western campaigns. During fighting against the Tanguts, illness or perhaps an injury sapped his strength. Even so, he issued orders from his tent, unwilling to appear weak before his men. He died in 1227, reportedly instructing that his burial place remain secret, hidden beyond reach of enemies or treasure hunters. Legends speak of a diverted river or a forest sealed by soldiers, who then vanished to keep the mystery. The empire survived him, but soon revealed strains. Ugadai became Great Khan and pushed deeper into China and Europe, while other sons carved out domains across Persia, Central Asia, and the Russian steppe. Distance, rival ambitions, and adoption of local faiths gradually eroded unity. By the mid-13th century, the once single empire had evolved into semi-independent Khanats: Chagatai, Golden Horde, Ilkhanati, and Kublai's Yuan dynasty, each proud of its Mongol heritage, yet charting its own path. Legacy and modern relevance centuries later, Genghis Khan's image remains contested and magnetic. In Mongolia, his portrait adorns currency and monuments as a symbol of statehood and ingenuity. In parts of Central Asia and China, memories linger of cities razed, scholars dispersed, and dynasties broken. Yet the empire's unintended gifts were profound. Secure trade corridors linking Venice to Beijing, diplomatic envoys crossing linguistic frontiers, artisans and healers traveling under a single banner. Some genetic surveys hint at a vast lineage descending from his clan, a testament to the scale of his reach, though exact numbers remain disputed. Military theorists still study his logistics, reconnaissance, and meritocratic command, seeing lessons in adaptability and speed. Historians note how his policies of religious tolerance and respect for commerce anticipated modern ideas of open exchange. Whether hailed as visionary, scourge, or paradox, Genghis Khan's legacy reminds us how one leader's ambition can redraw maps, shift cultures, and echo across the centuries. Genghis Khan was a man who began with nothing, a boy betrayed, struggling for survival, but built an empire that reshaped the known world, a conqueror who was both tyrant and lawgiver, a destroyer and builder. His life forces us to wrestle with the paradoxes of history, how violence often paves the road for civilization, how cruelty and justice can coexist under one ruler. In the end, understanding Genghis Khan is understanding something about ourselves, about power, fear, loyalty, ambition, and the thin line separating hero from monster. Thanks for watching this deep dive. If you're intrigued by how individuals can leave legacies that shape spans of centuries, hit like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more history stories where truth is stranger and more powerful than myth.